Preface of How Salvator Won and Other Recitations. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Larry Wilson. How Salvator Won and Other Recitations by Wheeler Wilcox. Preface. I am constantly urged by readers and impersonators to furnish them with verses for recitation. In response to this ever-increasing demand, I have selected for this volume the poems which seem suitable for such a purpose. In making my collection, I have been obliged to use, not those which are amongst my best efforts in a literary or artistic sense, but those which contain the best dramatic possibilities for professionals. Several of the poems are among my earliest efforts. Others were written expressly for this book. In Meg's Curse, which has never before been in print, and in several others, I ignored all rules of art for the purpose of giving the public reader a better chance to exercise his elocutionary powers. E.W.W. End of preface.
How Salvator Won by Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by JStark523. The gate was thrown open. I rode out alone, more proud than a monarch who sits on a throne. I am but a jockey, yet shout upon shout went up from the people who watched me ride out. And the cheers that rang forth from that warm-hearted crowd were as earnest as those to which monarch Erd bowed. My heart thrilled with pleasure, so keen it was pain, as I patted my Salvator's soft silken mane. And a sweet shiver shot from his hide to my hand as we passed by the multitude down to the stand. The great waves of cheering came billowing back as the hoofs of brave Tenny rang swift down the track. And he stood there beside us, all bone and all muscle, our noble opponent, well trained for the tussle that waited us there on the smooth shining course, my Salvator, fair to the lovers of horse, as a beautiful woman is fair to man's sight, pure type of the thoroughbred, clean-limbed and bright, stood there taking the plaudits as only his due, and nothing at all unexpected or new. And then, there before us, the bright flag is spread, there's a roar from the grandstand, and Tenny's ahead. At the sound of the voices that shouted, "A go!" he sprang like an arrow shot straight from the bow. I tightened the reins on Prince Charlie's great son. He is off like a rocket, the race is begun. Halfway down the furlong their heads are together, scarce room twixt their noses to wedge in a feather. Past grandstand and judges in neck-to-neck strife. Ah, Salvator, boy, 'tis the race of your life. I press my knees closer, I coax him, I urge. I feel him go out with a leap and a surge. I see him creep on, inch by inch, stride by stride, while backward, still backward, falls Tenny beside. We are nearing the turn, the first quarter is past. Twixt leader and chaser the daylight is cast. The distance elongates, still Tenny sweeps on, as graceful and free-limbed and swift as a fawn. His awkwardness vanished, his muscles all strained, a noble opponent, well born and well trained. I glanced over my shoulder. Ha, Tenny, the cost of that 1 second's flagging will be the race lost. 1 second weak yielding of courage and strength, and the daylight between us has doubled its length. The first mile is covered. The race is mine. No! For the blue blood of Tenny responds to a blow. He shoots through the air like a ball from a gun, and the 2 lengths between us are shortened to 1. My heart is contracted, my throat feels a lump, for Tenny's long neck is at Salvator's rump. And now with the new courage grown bolder and bolder, I see him once more running shoulder to shoulder. With knees, hands, and body I press my grand steed. I urge him, I coax him, I pray him to heed. O Salvator, Salvator, list to my calls, for the blow of my whip will hurt both if it falls. There's a roar from the crowd like the ocean in storm, as close to my saddle leaps Tenny's great form. Once more, mighty plunge, and with knee, limb, and hand, I lift my horse first by a nose past the stand. We are under the string now, the grace race is done. And Salvator, Salvator, Salvator won. Cheer, hoar-headed patriarchs, cheer loud, I say, 'tis the race of the century, witness today. Though ye live twice the space that allotted to men, ye never will see such a grand race again. Let the shouts of the populace roar like the surf, for Salvator, Salvator, king of the turf. He has broken the record of 13 long years. He has won first place in a vast line of peers. 'Twas a neck-to-neck contest, a grand honest race, and even his enemies grant him his place. Down down into the dust let his old records be hurled, and hang out 2.05 in the gaze of the world. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Gossips by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Ken Masters. A rose in my garden, the sweetest and fairest, was hanging her head through the long golden hours. And early one morning I saw her tears falling, and heard a low gossiping talk in the bowers. The yellow nasturtium, a spinster all faded, was telling a lily what ailed the poor rose. That wild roving bee who was hanging about her has jilted her squarely, as every one knows. I knew when he came with his singing and sighing, his airs and his speeches so fine and so sweet, just how it would end. But no one would believe me, for all were quite ready to fall at his feet. "Indeed you are wrong," said the lily bell proudly. "I cared nothing for him. He called on me once, and would have come often, no doubt, if I'd asked him. But though he was handsome, I thought him a dunce." Now, that's not true," cried the tall oleander. "He has travelled and seen every flower that grows, and one who has supped in the garden of princes, we all might have known would not wed with the rose." "But wasn't she proud when he showed her attention, and she let him caress her?" said sly Mignonette. "And I used to see it and blush for her folly. The silly thing thinks he will come to her yet." "I thought he was splendid," said pretty pert Larkspur, "so dark and so grand with that gay cloak of gold. But he tried once to kiss me, the impudent fellow, and I got offended. I thought him too bold." "Oh, fie!" laughed the almond, "that does for a story. Though I hang down my head, yet I see all that goes, and I saw you reach out, trying hard to detain him, but he just tapped your cheek and flew by to the rose. He cared nothing for her, he only was flirting, to while away time, as I very well knew. So I turned a cold shoulder on all his advances, because I was certain his heart was untrue. The rose is served right for her folly in trusting an oily-tongued stranger," quoth proud Columbine. "I knew what he was, and thought once I would warn her, but of course the affair was no business of mine." "Oh, well," cried the peony, shrugging her shoulders, "I saw all along that the bee was a flirt. But the rose has been always so praised and so petted, I thought a good lesson would do her no hurt." Just then came the sound of a love song sung sweetly. I saw my proud rose lifting up her bowed head, and the talk of the gossips was hushed in a moment, and the flowers all listened to hear what was said. And the dark, handsome bee, with his cloak o'er his shoulder, came swift through the sunlight, and kissed the sad rose, and whispered, "My darling, I've roved the world over, and you are the loveliest flower that grows." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Platonic by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox by Julian Prattley. I knew it the first of the summer, I knew it the same at the end, that you and your love were plighted. But couldn't you be my friend? Couldn't we sit in the twilight, couldn't we walk on the shore, with only a pleasant friendship to bind us, and nothing more? There was not a word of folly spoken between us two, though we lingered oft in the garden till the roses were wet with dew. We touched on 1,000 subjects, the moon and the worlds above, and our talk was tinctured with science and everything else, save love. A wholly platonic friendship, you said I had proven to you, could bind a man and a woman the whole long season through, with never a thought of flirting, though both were in their youth. What would you have said, my lady, if you had known the truth? What would you have done, I wonder, had I gone on my knees to you, and told you my passionate story, there in the dusk and the dew, my burning, burdensome story, hidden and hushed so long, my story of hopeless loving, say, would you have thought it wrong? But I fought with my heart and conquered, I hid my wound from sight. You were going away in the morning, and I said a calm good night. But now when I sit in the twilight, or when I walk by the sea, that friendship, quite platonic, comes surging over me, and a passionate longing fills me, for the roses, the dusk, the dew, for the beautiful summer vanished, for the moonlight walks, and you. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Solitude by Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Jen Broda. Laugh, and the world laughs with you. Weep, and you weep alone. For the sad old earth must borrow its mirth. It has trouble enough of its own. Sing, and the hills will answer. Sigh, it is lost on the air. The echoes bound to a joyful sound, but shrink from voicing care. Rejoice, and men will seek you. Grieve, and they turn and go. They want full measure of all your pleasure, but they do not want your woe. Be glad, and your friends are many. Be sad, and you lose them all. There are none to decline your nectared wine, but alone you must drink life's gall. Feast, and your halls are crowded. Fast, and the world goes by. Succeed and give, and it helps you live, but it cannot help you die. There is room in the halls of pleasure for a long and lordly train, but one by one we must all file on through the narrow aisles of pain. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Grandpa's Christmas by Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Ken Masters. In his great cushioned chair by the fender, an old man sits dreaming tonight. His withered hands, licked by the tender, warm rays of the red anthracite, are folded before him, all listless. His dim eyes are fixed on the blaze, while over him sweeps the resistless flood tide of old days. He hears not the mirth in the hallway, he hears not the sounds of good cheer, that through the old homestead ring alway, in the glad Christmas time of the year. He heeds not the chime of sweet voices, as the last gifts are hung on the tree. In a long vanished day he rejoices, in his lost used to be. He has gone back across dead Decembers to his childhood's fair land of delight, and his mother's sweet smile he remembers as he hangs up his stocking at night. He remembers the dream-haunted slumber, all broken and restless because of the visions that came without number of dear Santa Claus. Again, in his manhood's beginning, he sees himself thrown on the world and into the vortex of sinning. By pleasure's strong arms he is hurled. He hears the sweet Christmas bells ringing, repent ye, and pray. But he joins with his comrades in singing a bacchanal lay. Again he stands under the holly, with a blushing face lifted to his, for love has been stronger than folly, and has turned him from vice unto bliss. and the whole world is lit with new glory, as the sweet vows are uttered again, while the Christmas bells tell the old story of peace unto men. Again, with his little brood round him, he sits by the fair mother-wife. He knows that the angels have crowned him with the truest, best riches of life. And the hearts of the children untroubled are filled with the gay Christmas tide, and the gifts for sweet Maudie are doubled, 'tis her birthday beside. Again, ah, dear Jesus, have pity, he finds in the chill waning day that one has come home from the city, frail Maudie, whom love led astray. She lies with her babe on her bosom, half hid by the snow's fleecy spread, a bud and a poor trampled blossom, and both are quite dead. So fair and so fragile, just 20, how mocking the bells sound tonight. She starved in this great land of plenty, when she tried to grope back to the light. Christ, are thy disciples inhuman, or only for men hast thou died? No mercy is shown to a woman who once steps aside. Again he leans over the shrouded, still form of the mother and wife. Very lonely the way seems and clouded, as he looks down the vista of life. With the sweet Christmas chimes there is blended the knell for a life that is done, and he knows that his joys are all ended, and his waiting begun. So long have the years been, so lonely, as he counts them by Christmases gone. I am homesick, he murmurs, if only the angel would lead the way on. I am cold in this chill winter weather. Why, Maudie, dear, where have you been? And you too, sweet wife, and together. Oh, Christ, let me in. The children ran in from the hallway. Were you calling us, Grandpa? They said, then shrank with that fear that comes alway when young eyes look their first on the dead. The freedom so longed for is given. The children speak low and draw near. Dear Grandpa keeps Christmas in heaven with Grandma this year. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
After the Engagement by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox by Julian Prattley. Well, Mabel, 'tis over and ended. The ball I wrote was to be. And oh, it was perfectly splendid. If you could have been there to see. I've 1,000 things to write you that I know you are wanting to hear, and one that is sure to delight you. I am wearing Joe's diamond, my dear. Yes, Mamma is quite ecstatic that I am engaged to Joe. She thinks I am rather erratic, and feared that I might say no. But, Mabel, I'm 27, though nobody dreams it, dear. And a fortune like Joe's isn't given to lay at one's feet each year. You know my old fancy for Harry, or at least I am certain you guessed that it took all my sense not to marry, and go with that fellow out west. But that was my very first season, and Harry as poor as could be, and Mamma's good practical reason took all the romance out of me. She whisked me off over the ocean and had me presented at court, and got me all out of the notion that ranch life out west was my forte. Of course I have never repented, I'm not such a goose of a thing, but after I had consented to Joe, and he gave me the ring, I felt such a queer sensation. I seemed to go into a trance, away from the music's pulsation, away from the lights and the dance. And the wind o'er the wild prairie seemed blowing strong and free, and it seemed not Joe, but Harry, who was standing there close to me. And the funniest feverish feeling went up from my feet to my head, with little chills after it stealing, and my hands got as numb as the dead. A moment, and then it was over. The diamond blazed up in my eyes, and I saw in the face of my lover a questioning, strange surprise. Maybe it was the scent of the flowers, that heavy with fragrance bloomed near, but I didn't feel natural for hours. It was odd now, wasn't it, dear? Write soon to your fortunate Clara, who has carried the prize away, and say you'll come on when I marry. I think it will happen in May. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Watcher by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Tommy Hersant, Carlsbad, California. I think I hear the sound of horses' feet beating upon the graveled avenue. Go to the window that looks on the street. Ah, he would not let me die alone, I knew. Back to the couch the patient watcher passed and said, "It is the wailing of the blast." She turned upon her couch and, seeming, slept, the long dark lashes shadowing her cheek, and on the weary moments crept, when suddenly the watcher heard her speak. "I think I hear the sound of horses' hoofs," and answered, "'Tis the rain upon the roofs." Unbroken silence, quiet, deep, profound. The restless sleeper turns. How dark, how late. What is it that I hear? A trampling sound? I think there's a horseman at the gate. The watcher turns away her eyes, tear-blind. It is the shutter beating in the wind. The dread hours passed. The patient clock ticked on. The weary watcher moved not from her place. The gray, dim shadows of the early dawn caught sudden glory from the sleeper's face. "He comes, my love! I knew he would," she cried, and smiling sweetly in her slumbers, died. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
False by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Ken Masters. False! Good God, I am dreaming. No, no, it never can be. You are so true in seeming. You, false to your vows and me? My wife and my fair boy's mother, the star of my life, my queen, to yield herself to another, like some light Magdalene. Proofs? What are proofs? I defy them. They never can shake my trust. If you look in my face and deny them, I will trample them into the dust. For whenever I read of the glory of the realms of paradise, I sought for the truth of the story, and found it in your sweet eyes. Why, you are the shy young creature I wooed in her maiden grace. There was purity in each feature, and my heaven I found in your face, and not only married but mated, I would say in my pride and joy. And our hopes were all consummated when the angels gave us our boy. Now you could not blot that beginning, so beautiful, pure, and true, with a record of wicked sinning, as a common woman might do. Look up in your old frank fashion, with your smile so free from art, and say that no guilty passion has ever crept into your heart. How pallid you are, and you tremble, you are hiding your face from view. Though a sinner you cannot dissemble. My God, then the tale is true? True, and the sun above us shines on in the summer skies? And men say the angels love us, and that God is good and wise. Yet he lets a wanton thing like you ruin my home and my name. Get out of my sight ere I strike you dead in your shameless shame. No, no, I was wild, I was brutal, I would not take your life, for the efforts of death would be futile to wipe out the sin of a wife. Wife, why that word has seemed sainted, I uttered it like a prayer, and now to think it is tainted, Christ, how much we can bear! Slay you, my boy's stained mother, nay, that would not punish or save. A soul that has outraged another finds no sudden peace in the grave. I will leave you here to remember the Eden that was your own, while on toward my life's December I walk in the dark alone. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Phantom Ball by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Jen Broda. You remember the hall on the corner? Tonight, as I walked down the street, I heard the sound of music and the rhythmic beat and beat, in time to the pulsing measure of lightly tripping feet. And I turned and entered the doorway. It was years since I had been there. Years and life seem altered. Pleasure had changed to care. But again I was hearing the music and watching the dancers fair. And then as I stood and listened, the music lost its glee. And instead of merry waltzers, there were ghosts of the used-to-be. Ghosts of the pleasure-seekers who once had danced with me. Oh, 'twas a ghastly picture. Oh, 'twas a gruesome crowd, each bearing a skull on his shoulder, each trailing a long white shroud, as they whirled in the dance together, and the music shrieked aloud. As they danced, their dry bones rattled like shutters in a blast, and they stared from eyeless sockets on me as they circled past, and the music that kept them whirling was a funeral dirge played fast. Some of them wore their face cloths, others were rotted away, some had mold on their garments, and some seemed dead but a day. Corpses all, but I knew them as friends, once blithe and gay. Beauty and strength and manhood, and this was the end of it all. Nothing but phantoms whirling in a ghastly skeleton ball. But the music ceased, and they vanished, and I came away from the hall. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Kingdom of Love by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. In the dawn of the day, when the sea and the earth reflected the sunrise above, I set forth with a heart full of courage and mirth to seek for the kingdom of love. I asked of a poet I met on the way which crossroad would lead me aright, and he said, "Follow me, and ere long you shall see its glittering turrets of light." And soon in the distance a city shone fair. "Look yonder," he said, "how it gleams!" But alas, for the hopes that were doomed to despair, it was only the kingdom of dreams. Then the next man I asked was a gay cavalier, and he said, "Follow me, follow me." And with laughter and song we went speeding along by the shore of life's beautiful sea. Then we came to a valley more tropical far than the wonderful vale of Cashmere, and I saw from a bower the face like a flower smile out on the gay cavalier. And he said, "We have come to humanity's goal. Here love and delight are intense." But alas and alas, for the hopes of my soul, it was only the kingdom of sense. As I journeyed more slowly, I met on the road a coach with retainers behind, and they said, "Follow me, for Our Lady's abode belongs in that realm you will find." 'Twas a grand dame of fashion, a newly made bride. I followed, encouraged and bold, but my hopes died away like the last gleams of day, for we came to the kingdom of gold. At the door of a cottage I asked a fair maid. "I have heard of that realm," she replied, "but my feet never roam from the kingdom of home, so I know not the way." And she sighed. I looked on the cottage. How restful it seemed! And the maid was as fair as a dove. Great light glorified my soul as I cried, "Why, home is the kingdom of love." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
His Youth by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org. Dying? I am not dying. Are you mad? You think I need to ask for heavenly grace? I think you are a fiend who would be glad to see me struggle in death's cold embrace. But, man, you lie, for I am strong, in truth, stronger than I have been in years. And soon I shall feel young again as in my youth, my glorious youth, life's one great priceless boon. O youth, 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 O God, that golden time, when proud and glad I laughed the hours away. Why, there's no sacrifice, perhaps no crime, I'd pause at, could it make me young today. But I'm not old. I grew just ill, somehow, grew stiff of limb, and weak, and dim of sight. It was but sickness. I am better now. Oh, vastly better, ever since last night. And I could weep warm floods of happy tears to think my strength is coming back at last, for I have dreamed of such an hour for years, as I lay thinking of my glorious past. You shake your head. Why, man, if you were sane, I'd strike you to my feet. I would, in truth. How dare you tell me that my hopes are vain? How dare you say I have outlived my youth? In heaven I may regain it? Oh, be still. I want no heaven but what my glad youth gave. Its long, bright hours, its rapture, and its thrill. O youth, youth, youth! It is my youth I crave. There is no heaven. There's nothing but a deep and yawning grave from which I shrink in fear. I am not sure of even rest or sleep. Perhaps we lie and think, as I have here. Think, 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 as we lie there and rot, and hear the young above us laugh in glee. How dare you say I'm dying? I am not. I would curse God if such a thing could be. Why, see me stand. Why, hear this strong, full breath. Dare you repeat that silly, base untruth? A cry, a fall. The silence known as death hushed his wild words. Well, has he found his youth? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Wanted, a Little Girl by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox by Julian Pratley. Where have they gone to, the little girls with natural manners and natural curls, who love their dollies and like their toys, and talk of something besides the boys? Little old women in plenty I find, mature in manners and old of mind, little old flirts who talk of their beaux, and vie with each other in stylish clothes. Little old belles who, at 9 and 10, are sick of pleasure and tired of men, weary of travel, of balls, of fun, and find no new thing under the sun. Once in the beautiful long ago, some dear little children I used to know, girls who were merry as lambs at play, and laughed and rollicked the livelong day. They thought not at all of the style of their clothes, they never imagined that boys were beaux. Other girls' brothers and mates were they, splendid fellows to help them play. Where have they gone to? If you see one of them anywhere, send her to me. I would give a medal of purest gold to one of those dear little girls of old, with an innocent heart and an open smile, who knows not the meaning of flirt or style. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Two Sinners by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. There was a man, it was said one time, who went astray in his youthful prime. Can the brain keep cool and the heart keep quiet when the blood is a river that's running riot? And boys will be boys, the old folks say, and a man is the better who's had his day. The sinner reformed, and the preacher told of the prodigal son who came back to the fold. And Christian people threw open the door with a warmer welcome than ever before. Wealth and honor were his to command, and a spotless woman gave him her hand. And the world strewed their pathway with blossoms of bloom, crying, "God bless lady, and God bless groom." There was a maiden who went astray in the golden dawn of her life's young day. She had more passion and heart than head, and she followed blindly where fond love led. And love unchecked is a dangerous guide to wander at will by a fair girl's side. The woman repented and turned from sin, but no door opened to let her in. The preacher prayed that she might be forgiven, but told her to look for mercy in heaven. For this is the law of the earth, we know, that the woman is stoned while the man may go. A brave man wedded her after all, but the world said frowning, "We shall not call." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Meg's Curse by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Tommy Hersant, Carlsbad, California. The sun rode high in a cloudless sky of a perfect summer morn. She stood and gazed out into the street, and wondered why she was born. On the topmost branch of a maple tree that close by the window grew, a robin called to his mate, enthralled, "I love but you, but you, but you." A soft look came in her hardened face. She had not wept for years. But the robin's trill, as some sounds will, jarred open the door of tears. She thought of the old home far away. She heard the whir of the mill. She heard the turtle's wild, sweet call, and the wail of the whippoorwill, whippoorwill, whippoorwill. She saw again that dusty road whence he came riding down. She smelled once more the flower she wore in the breast of her simple gown. Out on the new-mown meadow she heard 2 blue jays quarrel and fret, and the warning cry of a phoebe bird, "More wet, more wet, more wet." With a blithe hello to the men below who were spreading the new-mown hay, the rider drew rein at her window pane. How it all came back today! How young she was, and how fair she was! What innocence crowned her brow! The future seemed fair, for love was there. And now, in a dingy glass on the wall nearby, she gazed on her faded face. "Well, Meg, I declare what a beauty you are," she sneered. "What an angel of grace! Ha 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 ha! What a thing of beauty and grace!" She reached out her arms with a moaning sob. "Oh, if I could go back!" Then, swift and strange, came a sudden change. Her brow grew hard and black. "A curse on the day and a curse on that man, and on all who are his," she cried. "May he starve and be cold. May he live to be old when all who loved him have died." Her wild voice frightened the robin away from the branch by the window-sill, and little he knew as away he flew of the memories stirred by his trill. He called to his mate on the grass below, "Follow me," as he soared on high, and as mates have done since the world begun, she followed, and asked not why. The dingy room seemed curtained with gloom. Meg shivered with nameless dread. The ghost of her youth and her murdered truth seemed risen up from the dead. She hurried out into the noisy street, for the silence made her afraid. To flee from thought was all she sought. She cared not whither she strayed. Still on she pressed in her wild unrest, up avenues, skirting the park where fashion's throng moved gaily along in Vanity Fair, when, hark! A clatter of hoofs down the stony street, the snort of a frightened horse that was running wild, and a laughing child at play in its very course. With one swift glance, Meg saw it all. His child, my God, his child! She cried aloud as she rushed through the crowd like one grown suddenly wild. There, almost under the iron feet, hemmed in by a passing cart, stood the baby boy, the pride and joy of the man who had broken her heart. Past swooning women and shouting men, she fled like a flash of light. With her slender arm she gathered from harm the form of the laughing sprite. The death-shod feet of the mad horse beat her down on the pavings gray, but the baby laughed out with a merry shout and thought it splendid play. He pulled her gown and called to her, "Say, dit up and do dat some more. Dat just the way my papa play with me on the nursery floor." When the frightened father reached the scene, his boy looked up and smiled from the stiffening fold of the arm, death cold, of Meg, who had died for his child. Oh, idle words are a woman's curse who loves as woman can, for, put to the test, she will bare her breast and die for the sake of the man. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Fable by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox by Julian Prattley. Some cawing crows, a hooting owl, a hawk, a canary, an old marsh fowl, one day all met together to hold a caucus and settle the fate of a certain bird without a mate, a bird of another feather. "My friends," said the owl, with a look most wise, "the eagle is soaring too near the skies, in a way that is quite improper, yet the world is praising her, so I'm told, and I think her actions have grown so bold that some of us ought to stop her." "I have heard it said," quoth Hawk with a sigh, "that young lambs died at the glance of her eye, and I wholly scorn and despise her. This and more, I am told, they say, and I think that the only proper way is never to recognize her." "I am quite convinced," said Crow with a caw, "that the eagle minds no moral law. She's a most unruly creature." "She's an ugly thing," piped Canary Bird. "Some call her handsome. It's so absurd. She hasn't a decent feature." Then the old marsh hen went hopping about. She said she was sure, she hadn't a doubt, of the truth of each bird's story, and she thought it her duty to stop her flight, to pull her down from her lofty height, and take the gilt from her glory. But lo, from a peak on the mountain grand that looks out over the smiling land and over the mighty ocean, the eagle is spreading her splendid wings. She rises, rises, and upward swings with a slow, majestic motion. Up in the blue of God's own skies, with a cry of rapture, away she flies, close to the great eternal. She sweeps the world with her piercing sight, her soul is filled with the infinite, and the joy of things supernal. Thus rise forever the chosen of God, the genius crowd or the power shod, over the dust world sailing, and back like splinters blown by the winds must fall the missiles of silly minds, useless and unavailing. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Way of It by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Tommy Hersant, Carlsbad, California. This is the way of it, wide world over. One is beloved, and one is the lover. One gives, and the other receives. One lavishes all in wild emotion. One offers a smile for a life's devotion. One hopes and the other believes. One lies awake in the night to weep, and the other drifts off in a sweet, sound sleep. One soul is aflame with a godlike passion. One plays with love in an idler's fashion. One speaks, and the other hears. One sobs, "I love you," and wet eyes show it. And one laughs lightly and says, "I know it," with smiles for the other's tears. One lives for the other and nothing beside, and the other remembers the world is wide. This is the way of it, sad earth over. The heart that breaks is the heart of the lover, and the other learns to forget. For what is the use of endless sorrow? Though the sun goes down, it will rise tomorrow, and life is not over yet. Oh, I know this truth, if I know no other, that passionate love is pain's own mother. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Suicide by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Michelle Fry, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in June 2020. Vast was the wealth I carried in life's pack, youth, health, ambition, hope, and trust. But time and fate, those robbers fit for any crime, stole all, and left me but the empty sack. Before me lay a long and lonely track of darkling hills and barren steeps to climb. Behind me lay in shadows the sublime lost lands of love's delight. Alack, alack! Unwearied and with springing steps elate, I had conveyed my wealth along the road. The empty sack proved now a heavier load. I was borne down beneath its worthless weight. I stumbled on and knocked at death's dark gate. There was no answer. Strung by sorrow's goad, I forced my way into that grim abode. I laughed and flung life's empty sack to fate. Unknown and uninvited, I passed in to that strange land that hangs between two gulls, round which a dark and solemn river rolls, more dread its silence than the loud earth's din. And now where was the peace I hoped to win? Black-masted ships slid past me in great shoals, their bloody decks thronged with mistaken souls. God punishes mistakes sometimes like sin. Not rest and not oblivion I found. My suffering self dwelt with me just the same. But here no sleep was, and no sweet dreams came to give me respite. Tyrant death, uncrowned by my own hand, still king of terrors, frowned upon my shuddering soul that shrank in shame before those eyes where sorrow blent with blame, and those accusing lips that made no sound. What gruesome shapes dawned on my startled sight? What awful sighs broke on my listening ear? The anguish of the earth, augmented here 1,000-fold, made one continuous night. The sack I flung away in impious spite hung yet upon me, filled, I saw, in fear, with tears that rained from earth's adjacent sphere, and turned to stones in falling from that height. And close about me pressed a grieving throng, each with his heavy sack, which bowed him so his face was hidden. One of these mourned, "No who enters here but finds the way more along to those fair realms where sounds the angel's song. There is no man-made exit out of woe. Ye cannot dash the locked door down and go to claim thy rightful joy through paths of wrong." He passed into the shadows dim and gray, and left me to pursue my path alone. With terror greater than I yet had known, hard on my soul the awful knowledge lay. Death had not ended life, nor found God's way, but with my same sad sorrows still my own, where by-roads led to by-roads, thistles sown, I had but wandered off and gone astray. With earth still near enough to hear its sighs, with heaven afar and hell but just below, still on and on my lonely soul must go, until I earn the right to paradise. We cannot force our way into God's skies, nor rush into the rest we long to know, but patiently, with bleeding steps and slow, toil on to where selfhood in Godhood dies. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Now I Lay Me by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. When I pass from earth away, palsied though I be and gray, may my spirit keep so young that my failing, faltering tongue frames that prayer so dear to me, taught me at my mother's knee. Now I lay me down to sleep, passing to eternal rest on the loving parent breast. I pray the Lord my soul to keep from all danger, safe and calm, in the hollow of His palm. If I should die before I wake, drifting with bated breath out of slumber into death, I pray the Lord my soul to take, from the body's claim set free, sheltered in the great to be. Simple prayer of trust and truth, taught me in my early youth, let my soul its beauty keep when I lay me down to sleep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Messenger by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org. The Messenger. She rose up in the early dawn, and white and silently she moved. About the house 4 men had gone to battle for the land they loved, and she, the mother and the wife, waited for the tidings from the strife. How still the house seemed, and her tread was like the footsteps of the dead. The long day passed, the dark night came. She had not seen a human face. Some voice spoke suddenly her name. How loud it echoed in that place, where day on day no sound was heard but her own footsteps. "Bring your word," she cried, to whom she could not see. "Word from the battle plain to me?" A soldier entered at the door, and stood within the dim firelight. "I bring you tidings of the 4," he said, "who left you for the fight." "God bless you, friend," she cried. "Speak on, for I can bear it. One is gone?" "One is gone," he said. "Which one?" "Dear lady, he, your eldest son." A deathly pallor shot across her withered face. She did not weep. She said, "It is a grievous loss, but God gives his beloved sleep. What of the living, of the 3? And when can they come back to me?" The soldier turned away his head. "Lady, your husband too is dead." She put her hand upon her brow. A wild sharp pain was in her eyes. "My husband! Oh, God help me now!" The soldier heard her shuddering sighs. The task was harder than he thought. "Your youngest son, dear madame, fought close at his father's side. Both fell, dead by the bursting of a shell." She moved her lips and seemed to moan. Her face had palened to ashen grey. "Then one is left me, one alone," she said, "of 4 who marched away. O overruling, all-wise God, how can I pass beneath thy rod?" The soldier walked across the floor, paused at the window, at the door, wiped the cold dew drops from his cheek, and sought the mourner's side again. "Once more, dear lady, I must speak. Your last remaining son was slain just at the closing of the fight. 'Twas he who sent me here tonight." "God knows," the man said afterward, "the fight itself was not so hard." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Illogical by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org. She stood beside me while I gave an order for a bonnet. She shuddered when I said, and put a bright bird's wing upon it. A member of the Audubon Society was she, and cutting were her comments made on worldly folks like me. She spoke about the helpless birds we wickedly were harming. She quoted the statistics, and they really were alarming. She said God meant his little birds to sing in trees and skies, and there was pathos in her voice, and tears were in her eyes. Oh, surely, in this beauteous world, you can find lovely things enough to trim your hats, she said, without the dear bird's wings. I sat beside her that same day, in her own house at dinner, angelic being that she was to entertain a sinner. Her well-appointed table groaned beneath the ample spread. Course followed appetizing course, and hunger, sated, fled. But still my charming hostess urged, "Do have a reed, bird dear. They are so delicate and sweet at this time of the year." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Servian Legend by Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. Long, long ago, ere yet our race began, when earth was empty, waiting still for man, before the breath of life to him was given, the angels fell into a strife in heaven. At length one furious demon grasped the sun, and sped away as fast as he could run, and with a ringing laugh of fiendish mirth, he leaped the battlements and fell to earth. Dark was it then in heaven, but light below, for there the demon wandered to and fro, tilting aloft upon a slender pole the orb of day, the pilfering old soul. The angels wept and wailed, but through the dark the great Creator's voice cried sternly, "Hark! Who will restore to me the orb of light? Him will I honour in all heaven's sight." Then o'er the battlements there dropped another, a shrewder angel well there could not be. Quoth he, "Behold my love for thee, my brother, for I have left all heaven to stay with thee. Thy loneliness and wanderings I will share, thy heavy burden I will help thee bear." "Well said," the demon answered, "and well done, but I'll not tax you with this heavy sun. Your company will cheer me, it is true, and I could never think of burdening you." Idly they wandered onward, side by side, till by and by they neared a silvery tide. "Let's bathe," the angel suddenly suggested. "Agreed," the demon answered, "I'll go last, because I needs must leave quite unmolested this tiresome sun, which I will now make fast." He set the pole well in the sandy turf, and called a jackdaw near to watch the place. Meanwhile the angel paddled in the surf, and playfully dared his brother to a race. They swam around together for a while, the demon always keeping near his prize, till presently the angel with a smile proposed a healthful diving exercise. The demon hesitated, but, he thought, "The jackdaw will inform me with a cry. If this good brother tries deceiving me, I will not be outdone by him, not I." Down, down they went, the angel in a trice rose up again, and swift ashore he sped. The jackdaw shrieked, but lo, a mile of ice the demon found had frozen o'er his head. He swore an oath and gathered all his force, and broke the ice to see the sun, of course, held firmly in the radiant angel's hand, who sailed away towards the heavenly land. He gave pursuit, wrath lent speed to his chase, all heaven leaned down to watch the exciting race. On they came, and still the evil one gained on the angel burdened with the sun. With bated breath and faces white as ghosts, over the walls leaned heaven's affrighted hosts. Up, up, still up, the angel almost spent, threw 1 foot forward o'er the battlement. The demon seized the other with a shout, so fierce his clutch he pulled the bottom out, as the good angel fainting laid the sun down by the throne of God, who cried, "Well done! Thy great misfortune shall be made divine. Man will I create with a foot like thine." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Peekaboo by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Jen Broda. The cunningest thing that a baby can do is the very first time it plays peekaboo. When it hides its pink little face in its hands and crows and shows that it understands what nurse and mama and papa too mean when they hide and cry peekaboo, peekaboo. Oh, what a wonderful thing it is when they find that baby can play like this, and everyone listens and thinks it true. The baby's gurgle means peekaboo, peekaboo. And over the changes are rung on the marvelous infant who talks so young. I wonder if anyone ever knew a baby that never played peekaboo, peekaboo. 'Tis old as the hills are. I believe Cain was taught it by Mother Eve, for Cain was an innocent baby too, and I am sure he played peekaboo, peekaboo. And the whole world full of the children of men have all of them played that game since then. Kings and princes and beggars too, everyone has played peekaboo, peekaboo. Thief and robber and ruffian bold, the crazy tramp and the drunkard old, all have been babies who laughed and knew how to hide and play peekaboo, peekaboo. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Falling of Thrones by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. Above the din of commerce, above the clamour and rattle of labour disputing with riches, of anarchist threats and groans, above the hurry and hustle and roar of that bloodless battle, where men are fighting for riches, I hear the falling of thrones. I see no savage host, I hear no martial drumming, but down in the dust at our feet lie the useless crowns of kings, and the mighty spirit of progress is steadily coming, and the flag of one republic abroad to the world he flings. The universal republic, where worth not birth is royal, where the lowliest born may climb on a self-made ladder to fame, where the highest and proudest born, if he be not true and loyal, shall find no masking title to cover and gild his shame. Not with the bellow of guns, and not with sabres whetting, but with growing minds of men is waged this swordless fray, while over the dim horizon the sun of royalty setting lights with a dying splendour the humblest toiler's way. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Her Last Letter by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox by Julian Prattley. Sitting alone by the window, watching the moonlit street, bending my head to listen to the well-known sound of your feet, I have been wondering, darling, how I can bear the pain, when I watch, with sighs and tear-wet eyes, and wait for your coming in vain. For I know that a day approaches when your heart will tire of me, when by door and gate I may watch and wait, for a form I shall not see. When the love that is now my heaven, the kisses that make my life, you will bestow on another, and that other will be your wife. You will grow weary of sinning, though you do not call it so. You will long for a love that is purer than the love that we two know. God knows I have loved you dearly, with a passion strong as true, but you will grow tired and leave me, though I gave up all for you. I was as pure as the morning when I first looked on your face. I knew I never could reach you in your high exalted place. But I looked and loved and worshipped as a flower might worship a star, and your eyes shone down upon me, and you seemed so far, so far. And then? Well, then you loved me with all your heart, but we could not stand at the altar, we were so far apart. If a star should wed with the flower, the star must drop from the sky, or the flower in trying to reach it would droop on its stalk and die. But you said that you loved me, darling, and swore by the heavens above that the Lord and all of his angels would sanction and bless our love. And I was weak, not wicked. My love was as pure as true, and sin itself seemed a virtue if only shared by you. We have been happy together, though under the cloud of sin, but I know that the day approaches when my chastening must begin. You have been faithful and tender, but you will not always be, and I think I had better leave you, while your thoughts are kind of me. I know my beauty is fading, sin furrows the fairest brow, and I know that your heart will weary of the face you smile on now. You will take a bride to your bosom after you turn from me. You will sit with your wife in the moonlight, and hold her babe on your knee. O God, I never could bear it. It would madden my brain, I know, and so while you love me dearly, I think I had better go. It is sweeter to feel, my darling, to know as I fall asleep, that someone will mourn me and miss me, that someone is left to weep, than to die as I should in the future, to drop in the streets some day, unknown, unwept, and forgotten after you cast me away. Perhaps the blood of the Saviour can wash my garments clean. Perchance I may drink of the waters that flow through pastures green. Perchance we may meet in heaven, and walk in the streets above, with nothing to grieve us or part us, since our sinning was all through love. God says, love one another, and down to the depths of hell will he send the soul of a woman because she loved and fell? And so in the moonlight he found her, or found her beautiful clay, lifeless and pallid as marble, for the spirit had flown away. The farewell words she had written she held to her cold white breast, and the buried blade of a dagger told how she had gone to rest. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Babyland by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Jen Broda. Have you heard of the Valley of Babyland, the realm where the dear little darlings stay, till the kind storks go, as all men know, and oh, so tenderly bring them away? The paths are winding, and past all finding, by all save the storks, who understand the gates and the highways and the intricate byways that lead to Babyland. All over the valley of Babyland, sweet flowers bloom in the soft green moss, and under the ferns fair, and under the plants there, lie little heads like spools of floss. With a soothing number the river of slumber flows o'er a bedway of silver sand, and angels are keeping watch o'er the sleeping babes of Babyland. The path to the valley of Babyland only the kingly, kind storks know. If they fly over mountains or wade through fountains, no man sees them come or go. But an angel maybe, who guards some baby, or a fairy perhaps, with her magic wand, brings them straightway to the wonderful gateway that leads to Babyland. And there, in the valley of Babyland, under the mosses and leaves and ferns, like an unfledged starling, they find the darling, for whom the heart of a mother yearns. And they lift him lightly, and snug him tightly, in feathers soft as a lady's hand, and off with a rockaway step they walk away, out of Babyland. As they go from the valley of Babyland, forth into the world of great unrest, sometimes weeping, he wakes from sleeping, before he reaches the mother's breast. Ah, how she blesses him, how she caresses him, bonniest bird in the bright home band, that o'er land and water the kind stork brought her from far off Babyland. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Fishing by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibraryVox.org by Thoughtful Wilderness. Maybe this is fun, sitting in the sun, with a book and parasol as my angler wishes, while he dips his line in the ocean brine under the impression that his bait will catch the fishes. 'Tis romantic. Yes, but I must confess thoughts of shady rooms at home somehow seem more inviting. But I dare not move. Quiet there, my love, says my angler, for I think a monster fish is biting. Oh, of course it's bliss, but how hot it is, and the rock I'm sitting on grows harder every minute. Still my fisher waits, trying various baits, but the basket at his side, I see, has nothing in it. Oh, it's just a way to pass a July day, Arcadian and sentimental, dreamy, idle, charming. But how fierce the sunlight falls! and the way that insect crawls along my neck and down my back is really quite alarming. "Any luck?" I gently ask of the angler at his task. "There's something pulling at my line," he says. "I've almost caught it." But when with blistered face we our homeward steps retrace, we take the little basket just as empty as we brought it. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Old Stage Queen by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. Back in her box by the curtains shaded, she sits alone by the house unseen. Her eye is dim and her cheek is faded, she who once was the people's queen. The curtain rolls up and she sees before her a vision of beauty and youth and grace. Ah, no wonder all hearts adore her, silver-throated and fair of face. Out of her box she leans and listens. Oh, is it with pleasure or with despair that her thin cheek pales and her dim eye glistens, while that fresh young voice sings the grand old air? She is back again in her past bright splendour, when life was worth living and love was a truth, ere time had told her she must surrender her double dower of fame and youth. It is she herself who stands there singing to that sea of faces that shines and stirs, and the cheers on cheers that go up ringing and rousing the echoes are hers, all hers. Just for one moment the sweet delusion quickens her pulses and blurs her sight, and wakes within her that wild confusion of joy that is anguish and fierce delight. Then the curtain goes down, and the lights are gleaming brightly o'er circle and box and stall. She starts like a sleeper who wakes from dreaming. Her youth lies under time's funeral pall. Her day is dead, and her star descended, never to rise or to shine again. Her reign is over, her queenship ended, a new name is sounded and sung by men. All the glitter and glow and splendour, all the glory of that lost day, with the friends that seemed true and the love that seemed tender, why, what is it all but a dead bouquet? She rises to go. Has the night turned colder? The new queen answers to call and shout, and the old queen looks back over her shoulder as, all unnoticed, she passes out. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Princess's Fingernail, A Tale of Nonsense Land by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Sarah Brown. All through the castle of high-bred ease, where the chief employment was do as you please, spread consternation and wild despair. The queen was wringing her hands and hair. The maids of honor were sad and solemn. The pages looked blank as they stood in column. The court jester blubbered, "Boo-hoo, boo-hoo." The cook in the kitchen dropped tears in the stew. And all through the castle went sob and wail, for the princess had broken her fingernail. The beautiful princess, red as a rose, bride-elect of the Lord High-Nose, broken her fingernail down to the quick. No wonder the queen and her court were sick. Never sorrow so dread before had dared to enter that castle door. Oh, what would my lord his high-nose say when she took off her glove on her wedding day? The fairest princess in Nonsense Land, with a broken fingernail on her hand. 'Twas a terrible, terrible accident, and they called a meeting of Parliament. And never before that royal court had come such question of grave import, as how could you hurry a nail to grow? And the skill of the kingdom was called to show. They sent for Monsieur Philomoff, he smoothed down the corners so rag and rough. They sent for Madame La Diamond Dust, who lived on the fingers of upper crust. They sent for Professor de Chamois Skin, who took her powder and rubbed it in. They sent for the pudgy nurse fat on the bone, to bathe her finger in eau de cologne. and they called the court surgeon Monsieur Red Tape to hear what he thought of the new nail's shape. Over the kingdom the telegrams flew, which told how the fingernail thrived and grew. And all through the realm of Nonsense Land they offered up prayers for the princess's hand. At length the glad tidings were heard with a shout that the princess's fingernail had grown out, pointed and polished and pink and clean, befitting the hand of a someday queen. Salutes were fired all over the land by the Home Guard Battery Popgun Band. And great was the joy of my Lord High Nose, who straightway ordered his wedding clothes, and paid his tailor Don Wait for A, who died of amazement the selfsame day. My lord by a jury was judged insane, for they said, and the truth of the saying was plain, that a lord of such very high pedigree would never be paying his bills, you see, unless he was out of his head, and so they locked him up without more ado. And the beautiful princess, red as a rose, pined for her lover, my Lord High Nose, till she entered a convent and took the veil, and this is the end of my nonsense tale. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Baby in the House by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox by Julian Prattley. I knew that a baby was hid in the house, though I saw no cradle and heard no cry. But the husband went tiptoeing round like a mouse, and the good wife was humming a soft lullaby. And there was a look on the face of that mother that I knew could mean only one thing and no other. The mother, I said to myself, for I knew that the woman before me was certainly that, for there lay in the corner a tiny cloth shoe, and I saw on the stand such a wee little hat. And the beard of the husband said plain as could be, 2 fat chubby hands have been tugging at me. And he took from his pocket a gay picture book, and a dog that would bark if he pulled on a string, and the wife laid them up with such a pleased look, and I said to myself, there is no other thing but a babe that could bring about all this, and so that one is in hiding here somewhere, I know. I stayed but a moment, and saw nothing more, and heard not a sound, yet I knew I was right. What else could the shoe mean that lay on the floor, the book and the toy, and the faces so bright? And what made the husband as still as a mouse? I am sure, very sure, there's a babe in that house. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Foolish Elm by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox by Julian Prattley. The bold young autumn came riding along one day where an elm tree grew. You are fair, he said, as she bent down her head, too fair for your robe's dull hue. You are far too young for a garb so old, your beauty needs colour and sheen. Oh, I would clothe you in scarlet and gold, befitting the grace of a queen. For one little kiss on your lips, sweet elm, for one little kiss, no more, I would give you, I swear, a robe more fair than ever a princess wore. One little kiss on those lips, my pet, and lo, you shall stand, I say, queen of the forest, and, better yet, queen of my heart alway. She tossed her head, but he took the kiss, 'tis the way of lovers bold, and a gorgeous dress for that sweet caress he gave ere the morning was old. For a week and a day she ruled a queen in beauty and splendid attire. For a week and a day she was loved, I ween, with the love that is born of desire. Then bold-eyed autumn went on his way in search of a tree more fair, and mob winds tattered her garments and scattered her finery here and there. Poor and faded and ragged and cold, she rocked in her wild distress, and longed for the dull green gown she had sold for her fickle lover's caress. And the days went by, and winter came, and his tyrannous tempests beat on the shivering tree, whose robes of flame he had trampled under his feet. I saw her reach up to the mocking skies, her poor arms, bare and thin. Ah, well a day, it is ever the way with a woman who trades with sin. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Robin's Mistake by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibraryVox.org by Thoughtful Wilderness. What do you think Red Robin found by a mow of hay? Why, a flask brimful of liquor that the mowers brought that day to slake their thirst in the hayfield. And Robin, he shook his head. Now I wonder what they call it and how it tastes, he said. I have seen the mowers drink it, why isn't it good for me? So I'll just draw out the stopper and get at the stuff and see. But alas for the curious robin, one draught and he burned his throat, from his bill to his poor crop's lining, and he could not utter a note. And his head grew light and dizzy, and he staggered left and right, tip over the flask of brandy, and spilled it every mite. But after a while he sobered, and quietly flew away, and he never has tasted liquor or touched it since that day. But I heard him say to his kindred in the course of a friendly chat, "These men think they are above us, yet they drink such stuff as that. Oh, the poor degraded creatures! I am glad I am only a bird." Then he flew up over the meadow, and that was all I heard. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
New Year Resolve by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Michelle Fry, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in June 2020. As the dead year is clasped by a dead December, so let your dead sins with your dead days lie. A new life is yours and a new hope. Remember, we build our own ladders to climb to the sky. Stand out in the sunlight of promise, forgetting whatever the past held of sorrow and wrong. We waste half our strength in a useless regretting. We sit by old tombs in the dark too long. Have you missed in your aim? Well, the mark is still shining. Did you faint in the race? Well, take breath for the next. Did the clouds drive you back, but see yonder their lining? Were you tempted and fell? Let it serve for a text. As each year hurries by, let it join that procession of skeleton shapes that march down to the past, while you take your place in the line of progression with your eyes to the heavens, your face to the blast. I tell you, the future can hold no terrors for any sad soul while the stars revolve. If he will stand firm on the grave of his errors, and instead of regretting, resolve. It is never too late to begin rebuilding, though all into ruins your life seems hurled. For see how the light of the new year is gilding the wan-worn face of the bruised old world. End of poem. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain.
What We Want by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Julian Pratley. All hail the dawn of a new day breaking, when a strong-armed nation shall take away the weary burdens from backs that are aching, with maximum labour and minimum pay. When no man is honoured who hoards his millions, when no man feasts on another's toil, and God's poor suffering striving billions shall share his riches of sun and soil. There is gold for all in the earth's broad bosom, there is food for all in the land's great store. Enough is provided if rightly divided, let each man take what he needs, no more. Shame on the miser with unused riches, who robs the toiler to swell his hoard, who beats down the wage of the digger of ditches, and steals the bread from the poor man's board. Shame on the owner of mines, whose cruel and selfish measures have brought him wealth, while the ragged wretches who dig his fuel are robbed of comfort and hope and health. Shame on the ruler who rides in his carriage, bought with the labour of half-paid men, men who are shut out of home and marriage, and are herded like sheep in a hovel pen. Let the clarion voice of the nation wake him to broader vision and fairer play, or let the hand of a just law shake him till his ill-gained dollars shall roll away. Let no man dwell under a mountain of plunder, let no man suffer with want and cold. We want right living, not mere almsgiving. We want just dividing of labour and gold. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Two Glasses by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Thoughtful Wilderness. There sat two glasses filled to the brim on a rich man's table, rim to rim. One was ruddy and red as blood, and one was as clear as the crystal flood. Said the glass of wine to his paler brother, "Let us tell tales of the past to each other. I can tell of banquet and revel and mirth, where I was king, For I ruled in might, and the proudest and grandest souls on earth fell under my touch, as though struck with blight. From the heads of kings I have torn the crown, from the heights of fame I have hurled men down. I have blasted many an honored name, I have taken virtue and given shame. I have tempted the youth with a sip, a taste, that has made his future a barren waste. Far greater than any king am I, or than any army under the sky. I have made the arm of the driver fail, and sent the train from its iron rail. I have made good ships go down at sea, and the shrieks of the lost were sweet to me. Fame, strength, wealth, genius before me fall, and my might and power are over all. Ho, ho, pale brother, laughed the wine. Can you boast of deeds as great as mine? Said the glass of water, I cannot boast of a king dethroned or a murdered host, but I can tell of hearts that were sad, by my crystal drops made light and glad. Of thirsts I have quenched, and brows I have laved, of hands I have cooled, and souls I have saved. I have leapt through the valley and dashed down the mountain, slept in the sunshine and dripped from the fountain. I have burst my cloud fetters and dropped from the sky, and everywhere gladdened the landscape and eye. I have eased the hot forehead of fever and pain. I have made the parched meadows grow fertile with grain. I can tell of the powerful wheel of the mill that ground out the flour and turned at my will. I can tell of manhood debased by you, that I have uplifted and crowned anew. I cheer, I help, I strengthen and aid, I gladden the heart of man and maid. I set the chained wine captive free, and all are better for knowing me. These are the tales they told each other, the glass of wine and its paler brother, as they sat together, filled to the brim, on the rich man's table, rim to rim. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Pen by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Sarah Brown. Oh, I know a certain woman who is reckoned with the good, but she fills me with more terror than a raging lion could. The little chills run up and down my spine whene'er we meet, though she seems a gentle creature, and she's very trim and neat. And she has 1,000 virtues and not one acknowledged sin, but she is the sort of person you could liken to a pen. And she pricks you and she sticks you in a way that can't be said. When you seek for what has hurt you, why you cannot find the head. But she fills you with discomfort and exasperating pain, if anybody asks you why you really can't explain. A pen is such a tiny thing, of that there is no doubt, yet when it's sticking in your flesh, you're wretched till it's out. She is wonderfully observing when she meets a pretty girl. She is always sure to tell her if her bang is out of curl. And she is so sympathetic to her friend who's much admired. She is often heard remarking, "Dear, you look so worn and tired." And she is a careful critic, for on yesterday she eyed the new dress I was airing with a woman's natural pride. And she said, "Oh, how becoming," and then softly added, "It is really a misfortune that the basque is such a fit." Then she said, "If you had heard me yester-eve, I'm sure, my friend, you would say I am a champion who knows how to defend." And she left me with a feeling most unpleasant, I aver, that the whole world would despise me if it hadn't been for her. Whenever I encounter her in such a nameless way, she gives me the impression I am at my worst that day. And the hat that was imported and that cost me half a sonnet, with just one glance from her round eyes becomes a Bowery bonnet. She is always bright and smiling, sharp and shining for a thrust. Use does not seem to blunt her point, nor does she gather rust. Oh, I wish some hapless specimen of mankind would begin to tidy up the world for me by picking up this pen. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Breaking the Day in Two by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Jen Broda. When from dawn till noon seems one long day, and from noon till night another, oh, then should a little boy come from play, and creep into the arms of his mother. Snugly creep and fall asleep. Oh, come, my baby, do. Creep into my lap, and with a nap, we'll break the day in two. When the shadows slant for afternoon, when the midday meal is over, when the winds have sung themselves into a swoon, and the bees drone in the clover, then hie to me, hie, for a lullaby. Come, my baby, do. Creep into my lap, and with a nap, we'll break the day in two. We'll break it in two with a crooning song, with a soft and soothing number, for the day has no right to be so long, and keep my baby from slumber. Then rock-a-bye, rock, may white dreams flock, like angels over you. Baby's gone, and the deed is done, we've broken the day in two. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Rape of the Mist by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. High o'er the clouds a sunbeam shone, and far down under him, with a subtle grace that was all her own, the mist gleamed fair and dim. He looked at her with his burning eyes, and longed to fall at her feet. Of all sweet things there under the skies, he thought her the thing most sweet. He had wooed off as a sunbeam may wave and blossom and flower, but never before had he felt the sway of a great love's mighty power. Tall cloud mountains and vast sea spaces, wind and tempest and fire, what are obstacles such as these to a heart that is filled with desire? Boldly he trod over cloud and star, boldly he swam through space. She caught the glow of his eyes afar, and veiled her delicate face. He was so strong and he was so bright, and his breath was a breath of flame. The mist grew pale with a vague strange fright, as fond yet fierce he came. Close to his heart she was clasped and kissed, she swooned in love's alarms, and dead lay the beautiful pale-faced mist in the sunbeam's passionate arms. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.